They found her on the rooftop at 11:47 on Christmas Eve, 13 minutes before she planned to stop existing. Emma Sullivan stood at the edge of the 45th floor, pills rattling in her coat pocket like broken promises. Below, Boston glittered with 1,000 Christmas lights she'd never see again. The wind cut through her $15 Goodwill jacket, but she barely felt it. She'd been numb for 18 months ever since the ocean swallowed her 4-year-old daughter and spit back only silence. Her phone buzzed. A text message, a photo, a little girl with hollow eyes, holding the snowflake pendant Emma had given her 3 weeks ago. The poorest woman in Boston, the richest man's impossible daughter. Nobody could reach the child everyone had given up on. Until a janitor nobody saw did what 9 nannies, 12 therapists, and a billionaire father couldn't. But first, they both had to survive tonight. Leave a like and share your thoughts in the comments, along with the city you're watching from now. Let's continue with the story. 3 weeks earlier, Emma Sullivan's alarm screamed at 5:30 in the morning, piercing the darkness of her studio apartment in Roxbury. She silenced it without opening her eyes. 25 years old, but her body felt 40. Her hands, rough from industrial cleaning chemicals, fumbled for the light switch. The uniform hung where it always did, gray janitor's jumpsuit with maintenance stitched across the back in faded letters. She pulled it on mechanically, zipped it to her throat, and grabbed her coat from the hook by the door. $15 at Goodwill, thin as paper, outside. Boston's December wind sliced through it like it wasn't there. -8 degrees Celsius. She'd stopped checking the weather months ago. Cold was cold. The number 28 bus arrived at 6:15, rattling through empty streets. Emma took her usual seat in the back, pulling out a worn library book on grief counseling she'd never finish. Around her, the city's other invisible people rode in silence: hospital orderlies, night shift security guards, cleaning crews, people who worked while the world slept. Aldrich Tower appeared through the morning darkness at 7:45. 45 floors of steel and glass, headquarters of Aldrich Biotech. $2.1 billion in market value, 20 floors higher than Emma had ever dared to dream. She clocked in at the service entrance, nodded to the security guard who never remembered her name, and took the freight elevator to the 44th floor. Her route never changed. Marble floors, executive suites, bathrooms that cost more than her annual salary to renovate. Her paycheck came to $1,840 a month. Rent took $1,200. Utilities, $180. Bus pass, $90. $400 for food, mostly ramen, day-old bread from the corner store, $35 for a prepaid phone. The rest went to medical debt, $8,400 remaining from Sophie's funeral. $250 a month, every month, forever. Her daughter had drowned 18 months ago, the day before her 5th birthday, Cape Cod, June 28th. A boat capsized. A little girl swallowed by bees. A mother who dove and found nothing but cold water. Emma kept one photograph in her wallet, wrapped in plastic to protect it from her own tears. Sophie at 4 years old, blonde curls wild in the wind, missing her front tooth, laughing like the world was full of magic. In her sock drawer, hidden beneath 3 pairs of worn socks, Emma kept 60 sleeping pills and a goodbye note written on notebook paper. December 25th, Christmas Day, the anniversary of when she'd lost everything. She had 22 days left to survive. She wasn't sure she wanted to. December 3rd, 2:30 in the afternoon, Emma pushed her cleaning cart across the marble floor of the 44th floor, the squeak of rubber wheels echoing through the silent corridor. The smell of ammonia clung to her rubber gloves. Executives passed without seeing her. To them, she was furniture, part of the building, like the potted plants or the abstract art on the walls. A door slammed open down the hallway. A woman stumbled out, mascara streaming down her face. Rebecca Walsh, 28, wearing an expensive blazer and pearl earrings, the 9th nanny in 6 months. She pressed her back against the wall, gasping like she'd been running. Emma stopped mopping, uncertain. Marcus Aldridge emerged from the executive suite, tie loosened, one hand running through his dark hair. 35 years old, so of a biotech empire, and at this moment he looked like a man drowning on dry land. "Rebecca, please," he said, his voice hoarse. "I'll double your salary, triple it. I don't care about money." Rebecca's voice cracked. "That child is not human, Mr. Aldridge. She cut my hair while I slept. She locked me in the closet for 3 hours. She drew a picture of me." Her voice dropped to a whisper. "Dead, with my eyes crossed out." Marcus reached for his checkbook, hands trembling. 50,000. Sign an NDA. "Please, I'm done." Rebecca snatched the check and ran toward the elevator, heels clicking against marble. Marcus stood in the hallway, alone. He didn't look at Emma. She was invisible. After a long moment, he turned back toward his suite, shoulders sagging like he carried the weight of the building itself. Emma returned to mopping, the rhythmic swish of the mop against stone filling the silence. Back and forth, back and forth. Suggest meditation through repetition. If she focused on the motion, she didn't have to think about Sophie, about the water, about the pills waiting in her drawer. A sound stopped her mid-stroke. Behind a closed door marked private. Someone was crying, not the loud, attention-seeking cry of a tantrum. This was something else. A whimper, small, wounded, like an animal caught in a trap. Emma knew she should walk away. Janitors didn't enter executive areas without permission. She could lose her job, her tiny apartment, the last threads holding her to this world. But that sound. Sophie had cried like that the day before the boat. She'd scraped her knee on the dock, and Emma had held her while she whimpered, kissing her blonde curls, promising everything would be okay. Emma's hand moved to the door handle before her mind could stop it. She knocked softly. No answer. The door was unlocked. She pushed it open slowly, holding her breath. The room was enormous, 400 square feet of unused space. Toys worth $100,000 sat untouched in their packaging. The windows were covered with blackout curtains, plunging the room into artificial twilight. Cameras blinked red from every corner, watching, recording. The air smelled sterile, like hospitals and fear. In the far corner, curled into a ball so small she almost disappeared, was a child, 6 years old, blonde hair matted against her skull, arms wrapped around a ragged doll, the only worn thing in this palace of pristine objects. Fresh scratches marked her forearms, red lines against pale skin, blood stained the sleeves of her white dress. Emma's breath caught. For a moment, she saw Sophie, same age, same blonde curls, same look of something vital, breaking inside. The girl's eyes opened gray, unfocused, like looking through fog. She watched Emma with the wariness of prey watching a predator. Emma didn't speak, didn't approach. She simply sat down on the floor, 5 feet away, close enough to be present but far enough not to threaten. She pulled off her rubber gloves slowly, revealing raw, cracked hands. Human hands. Minutes passed. The girl's breathing gradually slowed. Emma reached into her uniform pocket. Fingers closing around cold metal, the snowflake pendant, sterling silver, handmade, slightly crooked. Sophie had made it in preschool, 3 months. Before she died, the craft teacher had helped her attach the chain. It was the last thing Sophie had given her mother. Emma placed it gently on the floor between them, a bridge across 5 feet of polished hardwood. "My daughter made this," Emma said softly. "She was 4. Past tense. The words still cut like glass. "She's gone now." The girl's eyes focused slightly, drawn to the glittering silver. "It's cold," Emma continued, "like winter, like grief." She swallowed hard, like hearts that forgot how to feel warm. The girl moved, not much. Just a slight shift, fingers uncurling from the doll. She crawled forward, slow as a wounded creature testing whether the ground would hold. Her small hand reached out, touched the snowflake, lifted it into the dim light. For the first time in 3 months, Lily Aldridge spoke. "It's cold." Emma nodded. Tears she'd been holding for hours finally breaking free. "Like your heart," Lily nodded, fingers tightening around the pendant. "Mine too, sweetheart," Emma whispered. "Mine too." The door burst open. Marcus Aldridge and 2 security guards filled the doorway. "What are you doing in here?" Marcus demanded. Emma stood, dropping the pendant. But Lily's hand shot out, grabbed it, held tight. The first thing she'd held besides that doll in 3 months. The security office smelled like stale coffee and suspicion. Emma sat in a plastic chair, hands folded in her lap, while Marcus Aldridge paced behind the desk. The guards had left them alone, but she could see them through the glass partition, watching. "You violated protocol," Marcus said, but his voice lacked conviction. He kept glancing at the monitor, showing his daughter's room. Lily sat on the floor, still clutching the snowflake pendant, her eyes less hollow than they'd been in months. "Janitors don't enter private areas without authorization." "I know," Emma said to Samip. "Fire me if you need to." Marcus stopped pacing. He looked at her properly for the first time, really looked, not through her like she was part of the furniture. He saw the dark circles under her eyes, the way her uniform hung loose on a frame that had lost too much weight, the tremor in her hands that spoke of exhaustion or grief or both. "What did you do?" he asked quietly. 9 nannies quit. 12 therapists gave up. What did you do that they couldn't? Emma met his gaze. "Nothing. I just sat with her. That's all. Sometimes that's everything." She stood to leave. "I should get back to work." "Wait!" The word came out desperate. Marcus ran his hand through his hair again, a gesture Emma was beginning to recognize as his tell for barely controlled panic. "Come back tomorrow. I work here every day. No, I mean—" He struggled for words. "Come back to see her. After your shift. Not as a janitor, as— I don't know what to call it." Emma shook her head. "Mr. Aldridge, I can't— $500 per day." Her monthly salary in 4 days. She could pay off the funeral debt, buy a real coat, stop choosing between heat and food. "No," she said. Marcus blinked. No, I don't want your money. The words surprised her as much as him. Your daughter isn't a job. Then what do you want? Emma was quiet for a long moment, looking at the monitor. Lily had curled around the pendant like it was a lifeline. I just want her to be okay. Marcus studied her face, searching for the angle, the grift. People always wanted something. In his world, everything was transactional. But Emma's eyes held only a bone-deep weariness and something else, recognition, like she saw in his daughter a reflection of her own broken pieces. 1 hour, Emma said finally. After my shift ends at 6, I'll sit with her, but no payment. And if she doesn't want me there, I leave. Her choice, not yours. And Marcus nodded slowly. Okay. Yes. Okay. Emma turned to go. Wait, Marcus said again. What's your name? Your real name, not just the badge. Emma Sullivan. Thank you. Emma Sullivan. She left without responding, but something flickered in her chest. Not hope exactly, but a crack in the numbness. 21 days until Christmas. 21 days until the pills. Maybe she could last that long. The next 3 days passed in a strange new rhythm. Emma cleaned floors from 7:45 to 6, mechanical and invisible. At 6:30, she returned to Lily's room and sat on the floor. Sometimes Lily looked at her, sometimes she didn't. Emma never pushed. She simply existed in the space, breathing, occasionally talking about small things, the cardinal she'd seen that morning, the way snow looked like sugar, how her daughter Sophie used to dance to songs only she could hear. On the second day, Lily moved closer, 3 feet instead of 5. On the third day, December 7th, Lily spoke. Just one word, Sophie. Yes. Emma said softly, my little girl, she'd be almost 6 now, like you. Where is she? Heaven, I think, if there is such a place. My mommy's there, too? Lily's voice was barely a whisper, rusty from disuse. I know, sweetheart. Your daddy told me. Did you see her die? The question punched through Emma's chest. No, she just disappeared into the water. I looked and looked, but she was gone. Lily considered this. I never saw my mommy. She died when I was born. Grandma says it's my fault. Emma's hands clenched. It's not your fault, Lily. It's nobody's fault. Sometimes terrible things just happen. But if I wasn't born, then your mommy would be sad. Emma interrupted gently, because she wanted you so much. Your daddy told me that too. She chose you. Even knowing she might not survive, she chose you. Lily's eyes filled with tears, the first Emma had seen her cry. Grandma says my voice killed her. Your voice saved her, Emma said fiercely. The last thing your mommy heard was you crying, taking your first breath. That was her gift to you life. You didn't take hers. She gave you yours. Lily crawled into Emma's lap then, a small broken bird seeking warmth. Emma wrapped her arms around the child and let them both cry. They didn't hear the door open, didn't see Marcus standing in the hallway, hand over his mouth, shoulders shaking with silent sobs. Didn't know he'd been recording the conversation on the security system, saving it. Proof that his daughter could still feel, could still speak, could still be reached. On the windowsill outside, a cardinal landed. Bright red against the gray Boston sky. a splash of impossible color in winter. The bird cocked its head, watching the woman and child through the glass. Lily saw it first. She lifted her head from Emma's shoulder, pointing. "Look." Emma turned. The cardinal chirped once, then twice, like a message in a language they'd forgotten. "My grandma says cardinals are people from heaven visiting," Lily whispered. "Mine said that, too," Emma replied, wonder creeping into her voice. "Is it Sophie or my mommy? Maybe both." They watched the bird together until it flew away, a red spark against gathering snow clouds. And for the first time in 18 months, Emma thought maybe, just maybe, she could survive 21 more days, then 21 more after that, then 21 more, one day, 1 hour, one heartbeat at a time. The days blurred together in a rhythm Emma hadn't known in 18 months. Wake at 5:30, bus at 6:15, clock in at 7:45, mop, scrub, polish, disappear into the background of other people's lives at 6 o'clock. She stopped being invisible. She became the person Lily waited for. By December 10th, Lily was whispering full sentences. By the 12th, she was eating 5 spoonfuls at meals instead of 2. By the 15th, she slept 4 hours without waking, screaming from nightmares of mothers she never knew. Marcus watched from the doorway most nights, afraid to enter, afraid his presence would shatter whatever fragile magic Emma had conjured. He'd tried everything money could buy, the best therapists from Yale and Harvard, nannies with master's degrees in child psychology, a bedroom designed by experts in trauma recovery. None of it had touched his daughter. A janitor who earned in a month what he spent on coffee had done what his billions couldn't. But Emma was dying by degrees, and nobody noticed. Her weight dropped from 118 pounds to 109. She fainted on December 13th while cleaning the executive bathroom. Her vision going white, legs crumpling. She caught herself on the sink, waited for the dizziness to pass, and kept working. The night cleaning supervisor found her asleep in the supply closet on the 16th, sitting upright with a mop in her hands. She mumbled an apology and finished her shift. She worked 16 hours a day, 8 cleaning, 2 with Lily, 6 lying awake in her apartment, staring at the pills in her drawer. The suicide note sat beside them, creased from being read and reread. "Dear Sophie," it began, "Mommy tried. She really tried, but living without you is like breathing underwater. I'm so tired of drowning. Wait for me, baby. I'm coming home." 18 days, then 17, then 16, on December 18th. Victoria Aldridge arrived unannounced at 6:45 in the evening. She swept into Lily's room like a winter storm, all sharp edges and expensive perfume, 60 years old, silver hair pulled into a tight bun, wearing a suit that cost more than Emma's annual salary. Emma was sitting on the floor with Lily, helping her draw pictures with crayons. Lily had drawn 4 figures, a woman with wings labeled Mommy Catherine, a smaller girl with wings labeled Sophie, a man labeled Daddy, and 2 figures holding hands labeled Lily and Miss Emma. Victoria stopped in the doorway, her face hardening. "Who authorized you to be here?" Her voice could cut glass. Emma stood slowly, instinctively putting herself between Victoria and Lily. "Mr. Aldridge did, ma'am." "I see." Victoria's eyes traveled over Emma's janitor uniform, the worn shoes, the exhaustion carved into her face. And you are Emma Sullivan. I work here. As what? Exactly, because you're certainly not qualified to provide child care. Victoria pulled out her phone. Marcus, we need to talk. Now. Marcus arrived within minutes, still in his suit, from a board meeting. He looked between his mother and Emma, tension tightening his jaw. Mother, I told you about Emma. You told me you hired someone to sit with Lily. You didn't tell me it was the cleaning staff. Victoria's voice dripped with disdain. Do you have any idea how this looks? A woman with no credentials, no background check, no... She has something better than credentials. Marcus interrupted. She has Lily's trust. Trust? Victoria laughed, sharp and bitter. Marcus, you're being naive. These people... Emma's voice was quiet but hard. You mean poor people, Mrs. Aldridge. Victoria turned to her, eyes cold. I mean people with nothing to lose, people who see an opportunity and take advantage. I'm not taking advantage of anything. I'm helping a little girl who's hurting. For what? What do you want money? A lawsuit settlement, a story to sell to the tabloids. Emma's hands shook, but her voice stayed steady. I want your granddaughter to remember how to smile, that's all. Victoria stepped closer, voice dropping to a whisper, meant only for Emma. I know your type. I've dealt with people like you before. And I promise you, if you hurt my granddaughter, I will destroy you. Grandma, stop. Lily's small voice cut through the tension. She'd moved to Emma's side, one hand clutching the snowflake pendant, the other reaching for Emma's fingers. Miss Emma is good. She doesn't hurt me. Victoria's face softened slightly when she looked at her granddaughter, but the suspicion remained. Darling, you don't understand. Some people pretend to be kind to get what they want. Miss Emma lost her daughter, Lily said simply. She understands. Victoria froze. What? Marcus cleared his throat. Emma's daughter died last year. 18 months ago, Lily and I were discussing. You told my granddaughter about your dead child. Victoria turned on Emma, fury igniting. What kind of person does their own tragedy to manipulate a traumatized little girl? I didn't. Emma started, but Victoria wasn't finished. Get out. Get out of this building right now, or I'll have security remove you. Mother, that's enough, Marcus said, his voice hard. Emma stays. Then I'm calling my lawyer and a private investigator. If you won't protect Lily, I will. Victoria swept out of the room, leaving frost in her wake. Emma's legs gave out. She sank to the floor, hands covering her face. I should go. I'm making things worse. No. Lily knelt beside her. Please, don't leave. You promised. I know, sweetheart. But everyone leaves, Lily whispered. And the devastation in those two words stopped Emma cold. The nannies leave, the doctors leave, even my mommy left. Please don't be like them. Emma looked at this broken child who somehow still had the courage to hope and felt something crack open in her chest. The numbness that had protected her for 18 months splintered like ice. Okay, she whispered. I'll stay. I promise. She meant it. Even knowing Victoria would investigate her, even knowing the pills waited in her drawer, even knowing that loving this child might destroy what little remained of her heart. 7 days. That's all she had left of her original plan. 7 days until Christmas. 7 days until the anniversary of losing everything. But looking at Lily's face, the first real hope Emma had seen there, she knew she couldn't do it. Couldn't take those pills. Couldn't leave this child the way everyone else had. She'd made a promise. The investigation began the next morning. Victoria Aldridge didn't believe in half measures. She hired Thomas Chen, the best private investigator in Boston, gave him an unlimited budget, and told him to find everything, every secret, every lie, every reason Emma Sullivan shouldn't be anywhere near her granddaughter. It took him 3 days. On December 21st, the report landed on Victoria's desk. 147 pages. Emma's entire life. Dissected and analyzed, real name Emily Margaret Hartford. Born to Senator Richard Hartford and socialite Margaret Hartford in Greenwich, Connecticut. Trust fund baby, prep school education, full ride to Boston University, pregnant at 21, father unknown, family ultimatum, abortion or disownment. She chose the baby. They chose to forget she existed. Name changed to Emma Sullivan, moved to a women's shelter, worked 3 jobs while pregnant, had the baby Sophie Rose Sullivan in a public hospital, raised her alone in a studio apartment in Roxbury. Then came the incident report, June 28th, Cape Cod. Emma and Sophie on a rental boat, large wake from passing vehicles. Boat capsized. Sophie went under. Emma dove repeatedly, searching. Coast Guard arrived 12 minutes later. No body recovered. Search continued for 6 weeks, presumed drowned. Emma hospitalized for major depressive disorder, suicide attempt, August 3rd. She found by Father Gabriel Martinez from St. Mary's Church. Stomach pumped. Psychiatric hold, 30 days. Discharged with medication and mandatory therapy. Current status: high-functioning depression, continues therapy as court-ordered, employed as janitor, living alone, no family contact in 4 years, threat assessment, low risk to child, high risk to self. Victoria read the report twice, her hands trembling. She'd been looking for a con artist, a manipulator, someone to blame. Instead, she found a mirror that night, December 21st. Victoria couldn't sleep. She stood in her penthouse, looking at photographs she kept hidden in a drawer. A little girl, 6 years old, dark curls, bright smile. Rebecca Lynn Aldridge. Her first child, Marcus's older sister, dead 40 years. Victoria had been 20, young and afraid. Married to a man who worked too much. She'd hired a babysitter, a poor college student who needed money. The girl seemed nice enough, responsible. Victoria went to a charity luncheon. 2 hours. When she came home, paramedics were loading a small body into an ambulance. Blunt force trauma. The girl said Rebecca fell down the stairs. The investigation found no evidence of abuse, ruled an accident. But Victoria never believed it. The babysitter had been on her phone, texting her boyfriend. Victoria had seen the records later, obtained through her lawyer. 47 texts during those 2 hours. The girl hadn't been watching. Rebecca died because Victoria had trusted the wrong person. Her husband never recovered, drank himself into an early grave when Marcus was 10. Victoria raised their son alone, building walls around her heart, determined never to trust, never to let anyone close enough to hurt them again. When Marcus's wife, Catherine, died in childbirth, Victoria saw history repeating. Another child without a mother. She'd sworn to protect Lily the way she'd failed to protect Rebecca, by controlling everything, by trusting no one, by keeping danger at arm's length. even if that danger wore the face of help. But Emma wasn't that babysitter. Emma had lost a child too. Emma understood the weight of that loss, the guilt that never left, the way every breath felt like betrayal because you were breathing and they weren't. Victoria picked up her phone. It was 11:30 at night, but she called anyway. "Thomas, send me Emma Sullivan's address. I need to speak with her." Meanwhile, across the city, Emma sat in her apartment, staring at the pills. She'd promised Lily she wouldn't leave. But promises were easy to make and hard to keep when the darkness came. She'd held on for 7 more days. Sophie had been dead for 18 months and 7 days. Every morning, Emma woke up and forgot for just 1 second. Then memory crashed back the water, the screaming, the empty boat, the search that found nothing. 4 days until Christmas. 4 days until the anniversary. Her phone rang. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer. Emma Sullivan. A woman's voice, formal and curt. "Yes, this is Victoria Aldridge. I'm downstairs. We need to talk." Emma's heart sank. This was it. The end. Victoria had investigated her, found the suicide attempt, the psychiatric hold, the instability. She was here to threaten, to warn Emma away, to destroy the one good thing Emma had found in her wreckage of a life. "Come up," Emma said quietly. "3rd floor, apartment 3C. She opened the door 2 minutes later to find Victoria Aldridge standing in her hallway, looking profoundly out of place. Designer coat in a building where the heat barely worked, diamond earrings in a neighborhood where people checked their locks twice. "May I come in?" Emma stepped aside. Victoria entered, taking in the tiny studio, one room that served as bedroom, living room, and kitchen, threadbare furniture, cracks in the walls, but clean. Everything was spotlessly clean. Victoria saw the photograph on the small table by the window, a little blonde girl, laughing, missing her front tooth. "Your daughter," Victoria said. It wasn't a question. "Yes? Sophie?" Victoria was quiet for a long moment. Then, shocking Emma completely. She sat down on the worn couch and pulled a photograph from her purse. A little girl with dark curls, smiling at the camera. "My daughter," Victoria said. "Rebecca. She died when she was 6, 40 years ago." Emma sank into the chair across from her, speechless. "I didn't come here to threaten you," Victoria continued, her voice rough with emotion. "I came to understand. I read your file. I know what happened to Sophie. I know about the hospital, the suicide attempt, and I need to know." She looked up, eyes glittering with tears. "How do you survive it? Because I never did." Emma stared at the photograph of Rebecca Aldridge, seeing in that frozen smile the same light that had lived in Sophie's eyes, the same light that died when children did, leaving parents to stumble through darkness pretending to be whole. "You don't survive it," Emma said finally, her voice hollow. "You just learn to breathe underwater." Victoria's hands trembled around the photograph. "My husband couldn't do even that. He drank himself to death within 5 years, left me alone with Marcus, who was just a boy. I told myself I had to be strong for him, had to keep going, but I never grieved. I just froze." "I understand." Emma looked at Sophie's picture, her own hands shaking. "After Sophie died, I stopped feeling anything. I went to work, came home, existed. The therapist called it dissociation. I called it Tuesday. When did you try to kill yourself? The question was direct, without judgment. Emma appreciated that. August 3rd, 5 weeks after she drowned, Father Gabriel found me. I'd taken pills not enough, apparently. Woke up in the psychiatric ward with a tube down my throat and a priest praying over me. Do you still want to die? Emma was quiet for a long moment. Through her window, she could see Boston's skyline, Christmas lights blinking like distant stars. Every day, she admitted, I have pills in my drawer right now. I was going to take them on Christmas Day, the anniversary. But then, Lily. Yes, Lily, Emma's voice cracked. She asked me not to leave, and I promised, even though I'm terrified that loving her means betraying Sophie, even though every time I hold her, I remember holding my daughter, even though it hurts so much I can barely breathe. Victoria nodded slowly. When Marcus's wife Catherine died, giving birth to Lily, I blamed the baby. I never said it out loud, but I thought it. A mother shouldn't have to choose, but Catherine did. She chose Lily, and it killed her. She wiped her eyes with trembling fingers. I've spent 6 years punishing that child for surviving. Children aren't punishments, Emma said gently. They're just small people trying to live with losses they're too young to understand. I know that now. Watching you with her, I see what I should have given her, not control, but comfort, not rules, but love. Victoria looked up, meeting Emma's eyes. I came here tonight to warn you away from my granddaughter. I'd convinced myself you were dangerous. But reading your file, I realized something. You're not the babysitter who let my daughter die. You're me. 40 years from now, still drowning, still trying to breathe. I don't want to be that person. Emma's voice was barely a whisper. I don't want to be drowning in 40 years. Then we both need to learn to swim. Victoria stood, placed the photograph of Rebecca on the table beside Sophie's picture. 2 lost girls, decades apart, forever 6 years old. I won't fight you anymore, but I have one condition. Emma tensed. What? Christmas Day, when the anniversary comes, when the darkness tells you to take those pills? Victoria's voice was firm. You call me first. You call Marcus. You call someone, anyone. But you don't leave Lily the way everyone else has. Because if you die, Emma Sullivan, that little girl will spend the rest of her life thinking she wasn't enough to make you stay. The words hit like a physical blow. Emma doubled over, gasping. I can't. I don't know if I can survive it. Neither do I. But we'll try together. Victoria moved toward the door, then paused. One more thing. I'm filing for emergency custody of Lily. Emma's head snapped up. What? Not from you. From Marcus. I'm petitioning the court to remove her from his custody and place her with someone who can properly care for her. Victoria's face was granite. My lawyers believe we have a strong case. Marcus has been neglecting the company, missing board meetings, showing signs of instability, and his decision to allow an unlicensed, mentally unstable janitor unsupervised access to Lily demonstrates poor judgment. You can't. Emma stood, anger cutting through her grief. He loves her. He's trying. Love isn't enough. I learned that when my daughter died. Victoria opened the door. The hearing is December 24th, 2 p.m., Christmas Eve. She looked back one last time. I'm sorry, Emma, but I will not lose another child, not even to save my son. The door closed. Emma stood frozen in her apartment, Victoria's words echoing. Then she grabbed her phone and called Marcus. He answered on the first ring. Emma, what's wrong? Your mother was just here. She's suing for custody. She's claiming you're unfit. Short silence. Then, I know. The papers were served this afternoon. Marcus? She's not wrong. His voice was dead. I've been failing Lily since the day she was born. Maybe she'd be better off with someone who's not broken. We're all broken. Emma's voice rose. That's not a reason to give up. I stood on a rooftop 3 nights ago. Emma, I was going to jump. The only reason I didn't was 'cause Lily called. But what happens the next time? What if she can't save me? What if I'm not there when she needs me? Because I'm too busy drowning in my own grief. Emma's anger drained away, replaced by recognition. December 23rd, that's when you tried. Yes, I was planning Christmas Day. Same method, different building. She laughed, a broken sound. We're quite a pair, aren't we? 2 suicidal messes trying to raise a traumatized child. Maybe Victoria's right. Maybe Lily deserves better than us. Or maybe, Emma said softly, Lily deserves people who understand that surviving is hard. That grief doesn't have a timeline. That love sometimes means holding on when every instinct screams to let go. She took a breath. I made her a promise, Marcus. I told her I wouldn't leave. Are you going to make me a liar by giving up? Another long silence. Then the hearing is in 3 days. I know. I could lose her. We both could, but Victoria has money, lawyers, evidence. We have. Emma looked at Sophie's photograph, at the snowflake pendant she'd taken back from Lily to keep safe. We have the fact that Lily chose us. Does that count in court? I don't know. My lawyer says it's complicated. Lily's only 6. Her testimony might not be admissible. Then we fight without it. We show the judge that love doesn't come with credentials or trust funds. It comes from people who've been broken and chose to help someone else stand up anyway. Can I ask you something? Marcus's voice was hesitant. Anything. Why are you fighting for me? You have every reason to hate me. My car, that day on the coast, the wake that capsized your boat, I might have killed your daughter. Emma had thought about this constantly since learning the truth. The black Bentley speeding along the coastal road, the enormous wake, Sophie's scream as the boat tilted, the cold water closing over her head. I don't know if it was your car, she said carefully. The police report showed multiple vehicles. I was in shock. I might have remembered wrong, but you might have remembered right. Maybe, probably. Emma closed her eyes. And I should hate you. Some part of me does. But hating you won't bring Sophie back. It won't make the pain stop. It'll just add more weight to something that's already drowning me. She paused. And Lily loves you. However broken you are, however much you've failed, she loves you. And I can't hate someone Sophie would have wanted me to forgive. How do you know what Sophie would have wanted? Because she was 4 years old and believed everyone deserved second chances. She once made me apologize to a spider I'd killed because maybe it had a family. Mommy. Emma smiled through tears. She had a heart bigger than the ocean that took her, and I have to believe she'd want me to keep trying, to keep loving, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. The next morning, December 22nd, the Boston Globe ran a front-page story. Billionaire still faces custody battle, mother claims. Son unfit to parent. The article detailed Marcus Aldridge's recent behavior, missed meetings, declining stock prices, rumors of mental instability. It quoted anonymous sources saying he'd been seen acting erratically, that employees were concerned, that the board was considering intervention. Victoria's lawyers had planted the story. First rule of court battles: win in the media before you step into the courtroom. Emma read it on her phone during her morning bus ride. Around her, other passengers read the same story on their phones, tablets, newspapers. Rich people's problems, happening in glass towers they'd never enter. She got to work at 7:45. The building was different now. People stared, whispered. Everyone knew who she was. The janitor who'd gotten involved with the CEO. Some looked at her with pity, others with contempt. Gold digger, they thought. Social climber, trying to use a traumatized child to get to the billionaire father. Emma kept her head down and cleaned floors. At 6:30, she went to Lily's room. The little girl was drawing another picture, this one darker than before. A courtroom, a judge. Stick figures labeled Daddy, Grandma, and Emma. Lily had drawn herself small and gray, floating above them all like a ghost. "Do I have to go to court?" Lily asked without preamble. "I don't know, sweetheart. Maybe." "Will I have to choose between Daddy and Grandma?" Emma knelt beside her. "No one should ever make you choose between people you love. But what if they do? Then you tell them the truth, that your heart is big enough for both." Lily looked at her drawing, then picked up a red crayon. She drew a heart in the middle of the gray stick figure. "Miss Emma, what if my heart isn't big enough? What if I'm too broken to love anyone?" "Oh, honey." Emma pulled her close. "Broken things can still hold love. Sometimes they hold it better because they know how precious it is." Outside the window, snow began to fall. 2 days until Christmas Eve. 2 days until the hearing that would determine Lily's future. And somewhere in Emma's apartment, pills waited in a drawer, patient as death, for the day after tomorrow. December 24th arrived with brutal cold and merciless clarity. Boston Family Court opened its doors at 8 a.m., but the hearing wasn't scheduled until 2 in the afternoon. Emma spent the morning cleaning floors at Aldridge Tower, maintaining the routine that kept her grounded, pretending the world wasn't about to split open. At 1:30, she changed out of her janitor's uniform in the building's bathroom. She'd bought a dress from Goodwill for $15, navy blue, slightly too large, the hem coming undone at one corner. She tried to fix it with safety pins. Her hands shook so badly she stabbed her finger 3 times, leaving small spots of blood on the fabric. Marcus met her in the lobby at 1:45. He looked worse than she'd ever seen him suit, rumpled, tie crooked, dark circles carved into his face like wounds. They rode to the courthouse in silence, sitting in the back of his Bentley while his driver navigated through Christmas Eve traffic. Families rushed past on sidewalks, carrying shopping bags and wrapped presents, living in a world where the worst thing that might happen today was burned cookies or forgotten batteries. Emma and Marcus were fighting for a child's future, and losing seemed inevitable. The courtroom was smaller than Emma had imagined. Wood paneling, fluorescent lights, the seal of Massachusetts hanging behind the judge's bench. Victoria sat on one side with her lawyer, Thomas Crane, 50 years old, shark-eyed, expensive suit. Marcus and Emma sat on the other side with Sarah Chen, a compassionate attorney who looked young and overmatched. Judge Martha Brennan entered at precisely 2 p.m. 65 years old, gray hair pulled back severely, reading glasses on a chain around her neck. She'd been a family court judge for 23 years and had seen every variation of human failure and desperate love. Case number 24, FC 8847. The bailiff announced, Aldridge versus Aldridge. Petition for emergency custody modification. Victoria's lawyer stood. Your Honor, we're here because Marcus Aldridge has demonstrated a pattern of behavior that renders him unfit to care for his minor daughter, Lily Catherine Aldridge, age 6. In the past 6 months, Mr. Aldridge has missed 12 board meetings at his own company, resulting in a 32% drop in stock value. He has exhibited signs of severe depression and mental instability. Most concerning, he has allowed Emma Sullivan, an unlicensed individual with a documented history of mental illness and suicidal ideation, unsupervised access to the child. Emma felt every eye in the courtroom turn toward her. The janitor, the crazy woman, the suicide risk. Thomas Crane continued, pulling documents from a leather briefcase. I'd like to enter into evidence Miss Sullivan's psychiatric hospitalization records from Massachusetts General Hospital, dated August 23. She was admitted following a suicide attempt prescription drug overdose. She was diagnosed with major depressive disorder and suicidal ideation. She remains in court-ordered therapy. Sarah Chen objected. Pourquoi? Those records are protected by medical privacy laws. Miss Sullivan gave up her right to privacy when she inserted herself into this family's crisis, Crane interrupted. Mrs. Aldridge has every right to know who her son is, allowing near her granddaughter. Judge Brennan studied the documents. I'll allow them. Continue. Crane smiled. We also have security footage showing Miss Sullivan fainting twice while at work, evidence of her deteriorating mental and physical health. We have testimony from 9 professional nannies who resigned from Mr. Aldridge's employ, citing impossible working conditions. We have financial records showing Mr. Aldridge sold $4 million in company stock, unusual behavior suggesting financial desperation or instability. He paused for effect. Your Honor, Mrs. Victoria Aldridge is a stable, financially secure grandmother who wishes only to protect her granddaughter from a household spiraling into chaos. She has raised one successful son. She has the resources, time, and emotional stability to provide Lily with the structured, safe environment she desperately needs. Judge Brennan turned to Sarah Chen. Response. Sarah stood, and Emma could see her hands trembling slightly. Your Honor, while it's true Mr. Aldridge has faced challenges, none of this addresses the fundamental question, what does Lily need? She's a traumatized child who has lost 9 nannies in 6 months. She stopped speaking for 3 months. She was self-harming, refusing to eat, showing signs of severe depression. Every medical professional gave up on her. Sarah gestured toward Emma. Then Emma Sullivan sat with her. No credentials, no advanced degrees, just patience and genuine care. Within 2 weeks, Lily was speaking again, eating, sleeping. Her pediatrician has documented a 9-pound weight gain and significant improvement in all psychological markers. Miss Sullivan didn't fix Lily because she had training. She helped her because she understood grief. She understands grief because she's drowning in it. Crane shot back. She's suicidal. Your Honor, she keeps pills in her apartment. She plans to kill herself. Is that the role model we want for a vulnerable child? Emma's vision blurred. She hadn't known Victoria's investigator had been that thorough. Had he gone through her things? Photographed her drawer? The violation felt absolute. Marcus suddenly stood. Your Honor, may I speak? Judge Brennan raised an eyebrow. Mr. Aldridge, you have an attorney. I know, but I need to say this myself. He turned to face the courtroom, and Emma saw something shift in his expression. A decision made. A bridge burned. 3 days ago, I stood on a rooftop and considered jumping. 45 stories. I was going to kill myself. Gasps rippled through the gallery. Victoria's face went white. Sarah Chen looked like she might faint. I didn't jump because my daughter called me. A recording on her mother's phone, begging me not to go to heaven. But the fact remains I'm broken too. I'm barely holding on. Maybe my mother is right. Maybe Lily deserves better than a suicidal father and a suicidal friend trying to raise her while we're both drowning. He looked at Emma, then at Victoria. But I'm fighting anyway, because Lily didn't save me by being perfect. She saved me by needing me. And maybe that's what love is: broken people holding each other up one day at a time, knowing we might both fall, but refusing to let go. Judge Brennan's face was unreadable. Anything else? Yes, Your Honor. Marcus said quietly. Lily is outside. She asked to testify. She's 6 years old, and she wants to tell you herself what she needs. Judge Brennan looked over her glasses at Marcus, then at the attorneys. The child is 6 years old. Her testimony would be highly irregular. She's also the only person who knows what she needs, Sarah Chen said quickly, sensing an opening. Your Honor, this entire case is about what's best for Lily. Shouldn't we hear from her? Thomas Crane objected immediately. Your Honor, the child is too young to understand the legal implications. She's been manipulated by Miss Sullivan, who has inserted herself into this family under false pretenses. Any testimony would be coached and unreliable. I haven't coached her, Emma said. Speaking for the first time, her voice was quiet but steady. I didn't even know she wanted to testify until 5 minutes ago. Judge Brennan was silent for a long moment, weighing competing interests. Finally, she nodded. I'll allow it. But I'll speak to her privately, in chambers. Just the child and myself. No attorneys, no family members. If she becomes distressed, we stop immediately. Victoria stood abruptly. Your Honor, I must object. Noted and overruled. Mrs. Aldridge. Bailiff, please bring in the child. The courtroom doors opened. Lily walked in, holding the hand of a court advocate, a woman trained to support children during testimony. She wore a red velvet dress, Christmas colors, and her blonde hair was pulled back with a ribbon. She looked impossibly small in the vast courtroom, a tiny figure dwarfed by adult conflicts and legal machinery. Her eyes found Emma first, then Marcus, then Victoria. She didn't smile, but she didn't cry either. She simply stood there, a 6-year-old girl who'd lost her mother at birth and was about to lose someone else, no matter what happened today. "Hello, Lily," Judge Brennan said gently. "My name is Judge Brennan. Do you know why you're here today?" Lily nodded. "Grandma wants me to live with her. Daddy wants me to stay with him. And Miss Emma—" She looked at Emma. "Miss Emma doesn't know where she belongs. Would you like to talk to me about it in my office? Just you and me?" "No." Lily's voice was small but clear. "I want to talk here, so everyone can hear." Judge Brennan exchanged glances with the attorneys, then nodded. "All right. But remember, you can stop any time you want. This isn't a test. There are no wrong answers." Lily walked forward until she stood in the center of the courtroom, equidistant from all three adults fighting over her future. "I want to tell you what my mom is," she said. "Your mom is—" Judge Brennan asked gently. "I have two, Mommy Catherine, who died when I was born, and Miss Emma's Sophie, who died in the water." Lily pulled the snowflake pendant from under her dress. "Sophie made this. Miss Emma gave it to me. It's cold, like grief. That's what Miss Emma says. She says grief is just love with nowhere to go." The courtroom was absolutely silent. "Grandma says Mommy Catherine died because of me," Lily continued, her voice matter of fact. "She says if I wasn't born, Mommy would still be alive. She doesn't say it mean. She just says it true. And maybe it is true. I don't know." Victoria made a choked sound. "Lily, I never meant—" "But Miss Emma says Mommy chose me. Even knowing she might die, she chose me anyway. And that's not murder. That's love." Lily looked at Emma. "Is that true, Miss Emma? Did my mommy love me?" Emma was crying now, unable to stop. "Yes, sweetheart, she loved you more than anything. Even more than living, especially more than living." Lily nodded, processing this. She turned to her father. "Daddy, why were you on the roof?" Marcus's face crumbled. "Lily, were you going to jump like in my dreams?" "Yeah," he whispered. "I'm so sorry. Yes. Why? Because I was sad. Because I missed your mommy. Because I didn't know how to be a good father to you." His voice broke. "Because I was tired of failing everyone I loved." Lily walked to him and took his hand. "But you didn't jump. Why, you called me. You told me not to go to heaven yet. And you listened." She squeezed his fingers. "That's what good daddies do. They listen." She turned to Victoria. "Grandma, why are you trying to take me away from Daddy?" Victoria struggled to maintain composure. "Because I love you. Because I don't want to lose you the way I lost—" She stopped, but Lily finished the sentence. "The way you lost your other daughter, Rebecca, the one who died before Daddy was born." The courtroom erupted in whispers. Marcus turned to his mother, shock written across his face. "What, Mother, what is she talking about?" Victoria's carefully constructed walls crumbled. "I had a daughter before you. Rebecca. She was 6, the same age as Lily. I left her with a babysitter, a poor college girl who needed money. When I came home, Rebecca was dead, fell down the stairs. The girl said she was watching, but I know she wasn't. She was on her phone, 47 text messages while my daughter died." Her voice rose, breaking. Your father couldn't live with it. He drank himself to death. I raised you alone, and I swore I would never let someone unqualified, someone careless, someone poor near my family again. And then you brought her, she pointed at Emma, a janitor, with no credentials, with mental illness, with a dead child of her own, and I saw that babysitter all over again. I'm not her, Emma said quietly. I'm not the person who let your daughter die. I know, Victoria wiped her eyes. I know that now. But for 40 years, I've been fighting a ghost, trying to control everything so I never feel that helpless again. And I've been suffocating everyone I love in the process. Lily walked to her grandmother. Grandma, you're not bad. You're just scared. Yes, darling, I'm terrified. Me too. Lily looked at all three adults. Everyone's scared. Everyone's broken. Daddy's sad about Mommy Catherine. Grandma's sad about Rebecca. Miss Emma's sad about Sophie. And I'm sad about all of them. She turned to Judge Brennan. Is being sad a reason to take me away from my family? Judge Brennan removed her glasses, wiping them slowly. No, sweetheart, it's not. Then can I tell you what I want? Please do. Lily took a deep breath. I want Daddy because he's my daddy, and he didn't jump off the roof even though he was really sad. I want Grandma because she loves me even when she's scared and mean. And I want Miss Emma because she's the only grown-up who sits with me in the dark and doesn't try to turn on the light before I'm ready. She pulled out a folded piece of paper from her dress pocket, a drawing she'd made that morning. 4 figures holding hands, a woman with wings above them. This is my family. It's not the family I was born with. It's the family that stayed. Thomas Crane stood. Your Honor, the child is clearly confused. She doesn't understand that Miss Sullivan is not family, has no legal standing. She has the standing that matters, Lily interrupted, with a firmness that silenced the lawyer. She promised not to leave. Everyone else left. The nannies, the doctors, everyone. They all said I was too broken to fix. But Miss Emma never tried to fix me. She just sat with me, and that fixed me anyway. Judge Brennan leaned forward. Lily, can I ask you one more question? Yes, ma'am. If I let you choose, right now, who would you want to live with? Lily looked at her father, her grandmother, and Emma. Can I choose all of them? That's not usually how these things work, but that's what I need. Lily's eyes filled with tears for the first time. I'm not supposed to have to choose between people who love me. That's what Miss Emma said. Hearts are big enough for everyone. She walked back to the center of the courtroom, still holding her drawing. My mommy died so I could live. Sophie died, and Miss Emma almost died too. Daddy almost jumped. Grandma's been dead inside for 40 years. Everyone in this room has lost someone. Her voice was small but clear. Can't we just stop losing each other? The silence that followed was profound. Even Thomas Crane had no response. Judge Brennan set down her pen and looked at each adult in turn. I'm calling a recess. We'll reconvene in 30 minutes. I need time to consider this testimony. The recess felt like holding your breath underwater. Emma stood in the courthouse hallway, staring through the window at Boston's Christmas Eve afternoon. Families walked past on the street below, bundled in coats, carrying presents, heading home to warmth and tradition. She wondered what it felt like to live in a world where the worst thing that could happen was already behind you. Marcus stood against the opposite wall, phone in hand, but not looking at it. Victoria sat on a bench, her designer coat folded precisely beside her, hands trembling in her lap. Lily was with the court advocate in a children's waiting room, drawing pictures to pass the time. Nobody spoke. What was there to say? They'd each laid bare their deepest wounds in front of a judge, a courtroom, and each other. Now they waited to learn whether honesty was enough. 29 minutes later, the bailiff called them back. Judge Brennan sat behind her bench, reading glasses perched on her nose. The case file opened before her. Her face revealed nothing. I've reviewed the testimony, the evidence, and most importantly, I've considered Lily's wishes. This is my ruling. Emma's heart hammered so hard she thought everyone could hear it. Mr. Aldridge, Judge Brennan began, looking at Marcus, you've been honest about your struggles, and I appreciate that candor. I see it. However, honesty alone doesn't make someone fit to parent. You've demonstrated signs of severe depression, including a recent suicide attempt. You've neglected your business responsibilities. Under normal circumstances, these facts would concern me greatly. Marcus's face went pale. Victoria sat up straighter, hope flickering in her eyes. However, the judge continued, I'm also looking at Lily's documented improvement over the past 3 weeks. Her pediatrician submitted a report showing significant weight gain, improved sleep patterns, and decreased anxiety. Her therapist notes that Lily has made more progress in 3 weeks than in the previous 6 months. This improvement directly correlates with Miss Sullivan's involvement. She turned to Emma. Miss Sullivan, you have no credentials, no training, and a documented history of mental illness that would disqualify you from any professional child care position. Under normal circumstances, I would never allow someone with your background unsupervised access to a vulnerable child. Emma felt the words like physical blows. This was it. They were going to take Lily away. However, Judge Brennan said again, and Emma dared to breathe, I'm also looking at results. Sometimes the best medicine doesn't come in a prescription bottle. Sometimes healing happens when one broken person recognizes another and says, I see you. I understand. You're not alone. She removed her glasses. Mrs. Aldridge, you've suffered a loss I cannot imagine losing a child, then a husband, then spending 40 years trying to prevent more loss through control. I understand the instinct, but control is not love. Safety is not the same as healing. Lily needs more than protection. She needs people who understand that being broken doesn't mean being beyond repair. Victoria's expression shifted from hope to resignation to something else, acceptance, perhaps, or relief at being seen and understood. Therefore, Judge Brennan said, her voice firm, I'm making the following ruling. Primary custody remains with Marcus Aldridge. However, I'm imposing conditions. Mr. Aldridge, you will continue therapy twice weekly. Sir. You will provide documented proof of attendance. You will undergo a psychiatric evaluation within 30 days. If at any point you show signs of being a danger to yourself or your daughter, custody will be immediately reevaluated. Marcus nodded, too overwhelmed to speak. Mrs. Aldridge, You will have supervised visitation rights 3 times per week, increasing to unsupervised after 3 months of demonstrated appropriate behavior. I'm also ordering family therapy for you and your son. 40 years is too long to carry that grief alone. Victoria's lips trembled. Thank you, Your Honor. As for Miss Sullivan, Judge Brennan said, and Emma's breath stopped entirely. This is highly irregular, and I'm setting precedent that will probably haunt me. But I'm granting you a provisional role as Lily's caregiver, not a nanny, not a therapist. Something the law doesn't have a name for yet. Let's call it supportive family friend. You'll undergo a formal background check. You'll attend monthly meetings with Lily's therapist, and you'll continue your own therapy, with special focus on your suicidal ideation. Emma couldn't speak, couldn't move. If any of you violate these conditions, I'll revisit custody immediately, but I'm giving you all a chance because Lily asked me to, and because that child showed more wisdom in 10 minutes than most adults show in a lifetime. Judge Brennan looked at each of them in turn. She said hearts are big enough for everyone. Let's prove her right. Court adjourned. The gavel struck. Emma's legs gave out. She sat down hard on the wooden bench, hands covering her face, sobbing in a way she hadn't allowed herself to cry since Sophie died. Not tears of grief this time, but something else, relief, gratitude, terror at being given a reason to stay alive when death had seemed so much easier. Marcus sat beside her, his own face wet with tears, on his other side. Victoria reached across and took her son's hand. 3 broken people who'd been fighting each other, finally on the same side. I need to tell you something, Victoria said quietly. About the day Rebecca died. I blamed the babysitter for 40 years. But last week I hired someone to track her down. I needed to know if my hatred was justified. Marcus turned to her. And she died 5 years ago. Breast cancer. But before she died, she gave an interview to a grief counselor about trauma and guilt. She said she carried Rebecca's death every day of her life. Said she'd looked away for 90 seconds to check a text from her mother. Her mother was dying of cancer, and she'd texted, I love you, 90 seconds. That's how long Rebecca was alone when she fell. Victoria's voice broke. The girl didn't kill my daughter through negligence. She made a human choice to read a message from her dying mother, and in those 90 seconds, the unthinkable happened, and I spent 40 years hating her for being human. Mother, Marcus whispered, squeezing her hand. I see that same humanity in Emma, making human choices, having human pain, and I almost destroyed her the way I destroyed that girl's life, the way I've been destroying yours by trying to control everything. Victoria looked at Emma. I'm sorry. I'm so deeply sorry. Emma wiped her eyes. I'm sorry, too, for judging you before I understood, for not seeing that your cruelty came from love, turned inside out by grief. They sat together in the empty courtroom for several minutes, 3 people who'd lost children and nearly lost themselves, bound now by a 6-year-old girl who'd saved them all. The advocate brought Lily back into the courtroom. She looked at the 3 adults, reading their faces. Do I have to go away? No, Marcus said. Opening his arms, Lily ran to him, and he lifted her up, holding her like she was the only solid thing in the world. You get to stay with me, and Miss Emma gets to stay too, and Grandma will visit all the time. All of us? Lily asked. Together. All of us together. Lily looked over her father's shoulder at Emma. You're not leaving. Emma stood and walked to them. placing her hand on Lily's back. "I promised, didn't I? I'm staying." Even on Christmas tomorrow. The question hung in the air. Tomorrow, December 25th. The day Emma had planned to die. The pills were still in her drawer, patient and waiting. "Especially tomorrow," Emma said, and meant it. They left the courthouse together as snow began to fall. Boston was transforming into a Christmas card, white flakes drifting down, lights twinkling in windows, church bells ringing across the city. Victoria's driver waited with the car, but they stood on the courthouse steps for a moment, breathing cold air and new possibilities. "I don't know how to do this," Marcus admitted. "Be a family, the three of us plus Lily. It's not conventional." "Nothing about us is conventional," Emma said. "A suicidal janitor, a depressed billionaire, a grief-stricken grandmother, and a traumatized 6-year-old. We're not a Hallmark movie." "We're better," Lily said simply, "because we're real." Victoria smiled, the first genuine smile Emma had seen from her, out of the mouths of babes. They drove to Marcus's penthouse together, Victoria riding with them instead of taking her own car. The apartment was decorated for Christmas, a tree Marcus had paid someone to put up, but never had the heart to look at. Presents wrapped by staff members, everything beautiful and empty. Lily ran to the tree, then turned back. "Can we open one present tonight, please?" Marcus nodded. "Choose one, just one." Lily didn't choose a wrapped package. Instead, she ran to her room and came back with 3 envelopes, handmade cards with crayon drawings. She gave one to Marcus, one to Victoria, one to Emma. "I made these yesterday," she said, "before court, just in case." Emma opened hers with trembling hands. Inside was a drawing of 2 figures holding hands, one tall, one small. Above them, 2 angels with wings. Underneath, in Lily's careful printing, "Thank you for staying. Love, Lily, P.S. Sophie says, hi." Emma pressed the card to her chest, tears flowing freely. Marcus and Victoria opened theirs, similar drawings, similar messages. 3 broken adults receiving love from a child who shouldn't have had any left to give. "It's almost midnight," Marcus said, checking his watch. "Almost Christmas." They stood at the windows overlooking Boston, watching snow fall on the city. At midnight exactly, church bells rang across the city. Old North Church, Trinity Church, St. Mary's, where Father Gabriel prayed for Emma every Sunday. Christmas Day, the anniversary of Sophie's death. The day Emma had planned to take 60 pills and finally stop hurting. Instead, she stood in a billionaire's penthouse, holding a card from a 6-year-old girl, flanked by 2 people who understood grief in their bones and actively chose to live. "Merry Christmas," Lily whispered, taking Emma's hand. "Merry Christmas, sweetheart," Emma whispered back, and for the first time in 18 months, she meant it. 1 year later, Emma stood in the Roxbury Community Center on Christmas Eve, watching 200 families gather for the annual celebration. Sophie's Light Foundation had grown beyond anything she'd imagined. 3 centers across Boston, Providence, and Hartford, serving over 5,000 grieving families. The walls were covered with children's artwork, messages of hope, photographs of people who'd found their way back from darkness. Lily, now 7, volunteered every Saturday, teaching younger children that grief wasn't something to hide. Marcus had stepped back from his CEO role to focus on the foundation, discovering that helping others heal had somehow healed him too. Victoria came twice a week, her rigid control transformed into gentle guidance. Finally, allowing herself to grieve Rebecca after 40 years of frozen pain, Emma walked to the window where a cardinal perched on the snowy sill, its red feathers bright against white. She touched the snowflake pendant at her throat, Sophie's gift that had saved Lily, and in saving Lily, had saved Emma herself. The pills were gone, flushed away that Christmas morning. The goodbye note burned. In their place, a reason to wake up everyday broken people choosing to hold each other up, proving that love doesn't end with loss, it just changes form, multiplies, and somehow becomes enough. Have you ever found unexpected healing in helping someone else through their darkness? What small act of kindness changed your life or someone else's? Share your story in the comments below. Your words might be exactly what someone needs to hear today.